So thank you guys all for coming here. I'm going to start with kind of a summary of a case that we've already brought to your attention one time. But in September of last year, in 2025, we were called to a Cedar Springs home due to the death of a 2-year-old Riley Whitehead. In that case, there was an extensive investigation which led to the eventual arrest of her mother and the subsequent charging of her mother in that case. But over the course of the investigation, we did highlight some additional information that needed to be further investigated. And today we do have an update from the prosecutor's office on a couple of those cases. So I'm going to introduce Elizabeth Bartlett from the prosecutor's office, if you could come and speak to those cases.
Yes, absolutely. So we have reviewed all of the evidence and the entire investigation brought forth by the sheriff's office, and they did a phenomenal job. We have decided to charge 2 additional cases stemming from the investigation of the September case. We have charged felony murder and child abuse in the 1st degree for Leo Whitehead as the victim. We have also charged an additional case of child abuse in the 2nd degree for Katina Whitehead. Child abuse in the 2nd degree carries a maximum penalty of 10 years. The felony murder carries a maximum sentence, life without the possibility of parole, and child abuse in the 1st degree also carries life.
So at this time, we thought you might have some questions about some of the additional charges, and we're available to answer the questions we can. We do also have to remind you, obviously, as this is just now being charged, these are active cases. We are somewhat limited on the detail that we can release at this point. So if you ask a question I can't answer detail on, or Elizabeth can't answer detail on, and we'll let you know that. Yes, go ahead.
Hi, Sheriff. I was wondering, when you folks were looking for tips in this case, how many did you receive, and any details you could share about what some of those did lead to these charges?
We did receive a number of tips or contacts, I would say more specifically. I can't get into the detail of what those tips or contacts were, but I can say it did help us to kind of frame direction of information that we were further investigating. So it was incredibly helpful for everybody who did take the time to reach out to us and helped us kind of bring the big picture together, which then helped us present it to the prosecutor's office for charges.
On the 2nd degree, was that a boy or a girl, and can you say the age of that child?
Yep, that's a girl. The abuse started at 6 months old. She is currently 6 years old.
Can you go into any of the details of like what Miss Whitehead allegedly did to this child?
Not at this time, given that the case is pending, but I do anticipate that the preliminary exam will run.
And with that, the custody of that child, are they with another relative? Are they in CPS?
That child is in the custody of her father. Yes. Yep.
After the death of the first child, it's been 2 years, going on 3 years. I know a lot of people have questioned, the child died a few years ago and now the mother is just being charged. What message do you have to those people who question, the amount of time it took, to press these charges?
So these cases are incredibly detailed and intricate to investigate, and a major component of this case that wasn't available 2 years ago when Leo died was the pattern and the pattern of behavior that the mom demonstrated and some of the corroborating information that we were able to gather. So I would say the detailed nature of this case is something that isn't normal. It isn't what we would normally have to deal with in a child death. But it developed as information was gathered for the child who passed away, Riley, who passed away in September, and became more clear retrospectively that the same behavior was exhibited by the mom in the earlier 2 cases. So that's why it took that long.
And, did I just drop my question? What do you think for a moment?
Okay,
Prosecutor, how big of a factor was the confession when she was being interviewed for the first charge that she's already facing? She kind of alluded it's happening for, how big did that factor and how big is that gonna factor in?
Yeah, I mean, the confession plays a huge role in this case. But, you know, our role as a prosecutor's office, confessions aren't determinative. And we are very grateful that the Sheriff's Department did a solid investigation, because we were able to look at that confession to determine whether it's reliable, whether it was given voluntarily, and whether there was evidence to back that up. So it definitely played a significant role, but there is definitely other evidence to back it up as well.
Was that the key piece that kick-started this investigation in Leo's death? We're already looking into it, you know, was that they got the ball rolling, or was we already looking?
I would have to say the pattern was already noted by the detectives as they dug into Riley's death. Certainly her statements corroborated some suspicions that the investigators already had, which then led to finding evidence that corroborated both her statement and the pattern that we'd seen develop in the cases.
Elizabeth, how strongly do you feel about this case now that these additional charges are filed?
I am very confident in this case. I don't see offers being made, you know, especially when our victims are children and, you know, so young and the most vulnerable in society. Our office takes a strong stance on cases like this, and we will fight for them as hard as we possibly can. So I'm confident in our cases, and I don't anticipate there's going to be many offers moving forward.
You talk about that, I remember my question. You talk about, you know, that pattern of abuse that was there. And, you know, there might be some people who see that in relatives and friends who have children. What would your message be to someone who notices, you know, something may not be right with this person and their children?
I honestly don't think there should be anything that would stop you from reporting that. If you have a notion that something's not right, at least have it investigated. Report it to somebody in authority, whether it's a law enforcement agency or Child Protective Services, and keep an eye out for information that might help them further their investigation. Understand that sometimes cases are not as simple as the first thing you see. It's often information that's put with the first thing you see. So those things take a lot of time to investigate and develop. But it's always important that if you have some suspicions that a child's being hurt, that you make sure that the authorities are alerted.
Has Irene been questioned again since November? Like, have you brought this to her attention that you're looking into her son's death? And has she made any other statements regarding his death?
Yeah, we have no additional interviews at this time with Irene, nor do we plan to have additional interviews with her at this point.
We found out about the abuse towards Leo after Irene admitted so. How did you guys find out about the abuse of the 6-year-old?
This was still in the process of investigating Riley's death. Additional information was developed on the other two instances by reviewing records and again by the statements made by Irene herself.
It seems like with Leo and Riley there was a lot of breathing issues that kept coming about that nobody really looked at. Is it similar for the 6-year-old as well?
All of the acts are very similar.
And does Irene have any more kids besides the 3?
There is one other child that is not being brought into any of this investigation. We don't have any facts to support that there was any abuse for the last child, and that child was with her parent.
Same father in all
No.
of these cases? All
No.
different dads?
Correct. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah?
Thank you.
Awesome.